Hi guys, welcome back. In today's video, I'm gonna put on makeup and talk about a murder. Does that make sense? We'll stick around and see. Okay, so if you are into true crime and makeup, then this is definitely the video for you. If you are not into hearing a story about a murder, maybe I'll just catch you next week. This format, this tag, this theme is definitely inspired by Bailey Sarian and also by MizKatie Hill. Bailey Sarian, I'm wearing her merch today. This is her dog. So cute. Bailey Sarian has been doing a murder mystery makeup Monday, where every Monday she does a chatty get ready with me and tells the story of a murder mystery. MizKatie Hill is another beauty channel here on YouTube, and she has also done that series. So make sure that you check down below for the links to their channels. I'll put them up in the eyes too, and go check them out. This isn't really like a tutorial, we're just kind of like getting ready. So I will list all of the things that I use down in the description box down below. Bailey's really good at this. This might be a disaster. This story took place in my hometown. I grew up in a town called Jacksonville in North Carolina. If you are familiar with the Marine Corps, Dad was a Marine. He is a retired Marine. If you are a Marine, know any Marines, they have spent time in Camp Lejeune, and they hated it. Maria Frances Lauterbach was born on November 17th, 1987. She grew up in Vandalia, Ohio, where she attended Butler High School. Her mom says that she was like, an impulsive daredevil type, so it was kind of no surprise when she enlisted in the Marine Corps. In June 2006, she enlisted in the Marine Corps and she went to boot camp, and then when she got out of boot camp, she went to Camp Lejeune. It wasn't kind of long after that she got to her next unit. She started kind of having trouble at work. She kept getting caught like exaggerating stories that it wouldn't make sense for her to exaggerate, like just like nonsense lying. There was also an incident involving like a petty theft with her, so like, she was like not on the right track. I just said like about 8 bazillion times. There was another person in Maria's unit, and his name was Cesar Armando Lorien. He was born on November 13th, 1986. So he was assigned to be like a mentor to Maria to try to help her get back on track. He was a stellar kind of example of a Marine, a top performer, and he was tall, dark, and handsome, rumored to be quite the ladies' man. He was married to another Marine named Christina, and they had a baby girl at home. They were a very average couple, like a normal average couple living a very like normal average life. But underneath, their relationship was rumored to be like kind of volatile, and allegedly Christina kind of gave Cesar some certain allowances because of his wandering eye or rumored behaviors. She just kind of looked the other way in regards to like cheating. So Cesar was assigned to Maria to mentor her. I mean, what could go wrong? On May 11th, 2017, Maria came to her command and made a report of 2 incidents of sexual assault involving Cesar. She reported that the first incident occurred on March 26th in the barracks, in her barracks, and the second incident was about 2 weeks later, on April 9th around, in a private bathroom in an office that they both worked in. A pregnancy test was performed and it came back negative. And in the interview with NCIS, Navy Criminal Investigation Services, Maria told the case agent that she and Cesar had sex on 2 occasions, but she did not want to have sex, and she said to stop, and he did, but she did not say no. But she felt that she had been raped. On that same day, NCIS opened an investigation into the allegations of rape. They interviewed 2 witnesses in the first 5 months following the incident, all of 2. On May 12th, the day after, a verbal order barring contact or communication between Cesar and Maria was issued, and Maria remained in the same unit as Cesar, but was moved to a different building so they didn't have to work together. On May 18th, Cesar was interviewed by NCIS and denied having ever had sexual contact with Maria, and he agreed to take a polygraph test. He said that he wasn't at the barracks at all on the night that she claimed that this happened, and he named witnesses that would corroborate his story, but he declined to write a written statement, saying that he would come back and provide his own written statement later. So he later obtained legal counsel and was advised to not do any of those things and to not participate in any further interviews. So later in the investigation, it was revealed that Cesar was on duty that day, and they found logs of him doing security rounds around the barracks with his initials. He had claimed for the second incident that he was on emergency leave, and it was not true. He had the dates wrong. Maria was issued a uniformed victim advocate. That just means like the victim advocate for her case was also a military member. In about mid-May, the UVA told the case agent from NCIS that Maria's vehicle had been keyed, like scratched really bad, and the agent told them that vandalism did not rise to the level of an NCIS investigation, and it was not pursued as part of the rape investigation. Cesar was never charged with rape, but he was ordered to cease all contact with Maria and to stay 1,000 feet from her for 90 days, which was standard practice for anyone, with allegations of rape. And Maria was excused from any unit functions where they might, run into each other, where Cesar might be present. The no contact orders were renewed every 90 days, which was, typical, not unusual, during the investigation process. In late May, the UVA contacted NCIS again to let them know that someone had punched Maria in the face. She had been jumped in the parking lot outside her barracks, and Maria was able to describe the assailant, which was not Cesar. I mean, it was kind of clear that there was some retaliation going on or some intimidation, like if Maria had made these allegations about this stellar Marine that people didn't like it and wanted to pressure her into dropping the charges, or they thought, because her credibility at her unit was maybe not so good based on some other things in the past and how she had been assigned somebody to kind of straighten her out, that she was being viewed as a troublemaker who was just kind of out for revenge or out for, as a homewrecker. So on June 27th, Maria went to the doctor because she was feeling sick. A pregnancy test was performed, which came back positive. She said that she had had sex with her boyfriend after the alleged rape incidents had taken place, but because of the timing, she thought that the rape is what caused the pregnancy. So doctors later estimated the date of conception to be May 14th, but she didn't know that at the time, and DNA testing could not be done without a medical threat to Maria and the baby. So on September 17th, Maria, she was living in the barracks, but she requested special permission to move into housing to better, have preparations for the baby. You can't have a baby in the barracks. Maria also had a friend named Daniel. So Maria rented a room in Daniel's house off base and didn't tell her command. Then in November, questions were starting to be raised about the investigation and the quality of the investigation. Whoever they are, they were questioning whether the military investigators believed the allegations from March and April, and they started to think that they were unfounded. Marine Corps officials had said that Maria told investigators in November that she no longer suspected that Cesar was the father of the baby. On November 26th, trial counsel discusses what possible charges, if any, would be filed against Cesar. Now we're really gonna get into it. On December 14th, Maria reported to work. Her workday ended at noon because it was the unit Christmas party, which she did not attend because Cesar was gonna be there. Maria spoke to her mother, who she had previously called and told her about the sexual assault, and they had been going back and forth about what was she going to do with the baby and all those things. And that afternoon, according to her mother, Mary, Maria was preparing to testify that she had been raped by a fellow Marine and that the investigation had gone bad. Mary described having a firm conversation with Maria about the baby and telling her that she should give up the baby for adoption because she's unable to care for it. And Maria was telling Mary that everything was fine and she had already picked out a name for the baby and all these things. But Mary had a sense that that was like not accurate, not true. After that, any calls that she made to Maria were unanswered. So Maria's roommate, Dan, returned to his home and found a note from Maria, a handwritten note, expressed her desire to leave the Marine Corps. Dan said that her car was gone and some personal items were taken, and he called Maria's mother and told her that Maria left. $700 was withdrawn from Maria's bank account, and a one-way Greyhound bus ticket to El Paso, Texas was purchased in Maria's name, but is not used. On December 17th, which is the following Monday, Maria fails to report to work. Dan, her roommate, gives the command the note that he found that says, "I cannot take this Marine Corps life anymore. I am going away. Sorry for the inconvenience." So the command sent investigators to her house and they report that her car and her things were gone, and she's listed as unauthorized absence. On December 19th, Mary says she doesn't know where her daughter is and can't get a hold of her, so she files a missing persons report. Maria's cell phone was found that day in the grass about a half a mile from the base main gate. Somebody had a flat tire and they were walking, and that's how they found it, and they called, and Maria's mom begged them to take the phone to the police, which they did. Mary did eventually go to Jacksonville to work with law enforcement because she wasn't getting anywhere with her command, Maria's command. On December 22nd, Monday, Maria's car was found in the parking lot of the bus station. Side note, my parents' house, the house that I grew up in, is about a mile and a half from that bus station. There's like a full-blown missing persons, missing Marine, missing mystery. And I remember when this story was in the news, my parents calling me because I didn't live at home anymore, and my parents were calling me and telling me all about it, and they were like worried. I'm a little bit older than Maria, but you know, in their mind, they were just thinking like, oh no. On December 24th, Maria's ATM card was used in Jacksonville by a man who attempted to cover up the camera while he withdrew $400 from Maria's bank account. What do we say, Bailey? Suspish! On January 7th, 2008, so NCIS finally learned about the cell phone discovery, the bank withdrawals, and the Greyhound bus ticket. And up to this point, they just thought Maria was like AWOL. Cesar is questioned as a possible witness to Maria's disappearance, but not as a suspect. On January 10th, Cesar's wife, Christina, accompanied him to a meeting with his attorneys. And on the way there, Cesar asked Christina, "Are you with me on this?" And she says, I don't know. Is there anything that you haven't told me? And Cesar stunned her with his version of the events. And in the meeting with the lawyer tells him that he could face the death penalty. But what was the story? We'll get there. On January 11th, Cesar doesn't show up for work. By 8 a.m., his wife, Christina, met with the Onslow County Sheriff's Office, the local police, accompanied by her legal counsel and representatives from her command. Remember, she's also a Marine. And she handed over notes that were left by Cesar. She says that her husband told her that Maria showed up at their house and told him that she was leaving the area. She demanded money from him, and then he went with her to the bus station to buy the bus ticket to El Paso. Maria returned to Cesar's home and told him that her plan failed and that they started arguing. Maria pulled out a knife and killed herself by cutting her own throat. He became scared, and then he took her body to the woods and buried her. That afternoon, Onslow County sheriffs held a press conference announcing that they believe that Maria is dead and buried somewhere in Onslow County, and that Cesar is considered a person of interest and missing since 4 a.m. that day. But she came forward at 8 a.m. So she gave him a head start. Suspicious. Things really started to kick up at that point because later that evening, authorities found burned remains in a shallow grave in their backyard of Cesar's house, in a fire pit. They also found a large quantity of blood in Cesar's house using luminol. It's this chemical that will like glow and illuminate, like if you ever used a black light to like look at body fluids. Luminol will do that for blood even if it's been cleaned or painted over. The pattern that they found in the house depicted a violent confrontation. It left blood splatters on the ceiling and a massive amount of blood on the wall that had been cleaned and or painted over. Police issued a warrant for the arrest of Cesar Laurean in the death of Maria Lauterbach. So Cesar's on the run, he's on the go, he's on the move. A full-scale national manhunt ensues. Authorities suspect that Cesar is on the run to Mexico because he is actually a Mexican national. Now it's January 19th. And that weekend, the authorities teamed up with America's Most Wanted and they showed surveillance footage of Cesar and an unidentified man entering and exiting a Lowe's. And in his shopping trips, Cesar purchased a wheelbarrow, paint, and concrete blocks like the ones used to ring a fire pit. I need eyeliner. One neighbor reported a large bonfire in Cesar's backyard on December 24th and that the air smelled funny. On January 24th, a grand jury indicted Cesar on first-degree murder charges. The wife gave him a little bit of a head start, it seems, so what's going on with her? Cesar continued trying to communicate with Christina, his wife, sending letters to their Jacksonville home postmarked from Houston, Texas. One letter was 10 pages long, blaming Mexican drug cartels for Maria's death. Christina continued to cooperate with investigators, although she was still communicating with him via MySpace. Investigators traced Cesar to Mexico after discovering that he had ridden a bus there just hours before they launched the manhunt. U.S. authorities were able to track his general position using cell phone triangulation and other electronic communications. The autopsy on the charred remains that were found behind Cesar's home, and as expected, they are the remains of Maria and the unborn baby. Beneath the body was a bag of baby clothes, and they were buried up to about a foot in ashes and dirt. A 4-inch wound was found on the left side of Maria's neck. The wound is incised, meaning that it is a clean cut, such as one made by a very sharp instrument. However, it was found that the wound itself would not have been fatal as there was only minimal damage to the underlying muscle, and it appears to have been made post-mortem. So if so, that means that incision was made to the body to conform to Cesar's story about Maria killing herself by cutting her own throat. The official cause of death was ruled as a traumatic blunt force injury to the head. Way later in April in 2008, Cesar has been missing for nearly 3 months at this point. Enter Dog the Bounty Hunter. Dwayne Dog Chapman traveled to Mexico to try to help find Cesar, and he used his network of contacts in Mexico to continue the search for Cesar. And Mexican police, working on an unrelated case, spotted Cesar wandering the streets, and they became suspicious when they realized he didn't speak Spanish very well. He was apprehended on April 10th in Tacambaro, Michoacan? I'm not saying any of this right. In Mexico. That started the extradition process. The Mexican Constitution prevents extradition for crimes punishable by death. So in September 2008, Onslow County District Attorney Dewey Hudson agreed not to seek the death penalty, and a Mexican judge agreed to extradite Cesar. In North Carolina, a person convicted of first-degree murder can only be sentenced to death or life without parole. Them's the rules. Okay, the trial. More than 2.5 years after Maria's charred remains were found, Cesar's murder trial began, and the prosecutor described a brutal crime, and the defense questioned Maria's emotional stability. Testimony showed that hours before Maria was last seen alive, Maria told the ticket agent that the child was fathered by a fellow Marine that she was barred from seeing, and she expected for him to join her soon. Cesar knew that once Maria was declared a deserter, that her already shaky credibility with the command would be destroyed. He hoped that he would be cleared and be able to continue his career, but something happened at his home that day. So he went to plan B, and that was smashing in her head with a crowbar while looking at baby clothes in the garage. A former Marine colleague testified that Cesar gave him a blood-splattered crowbar in late December. He turned the crowbar over to authorities after those remains were found in Cesar's backyard. State investigators testified that the blood splatters found inside Cesar's garage and the blood on the crowbar came from Maria. And the medical examiner said that Maria's head was beaten with such force that it was basically split in half. So on August 24th, 2010, the jury deliberated for 3 hours and found Cesar guilty of first-degree murder, as well as theft and fraud charges relating to using Maria's ATM card after the murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison. On October 18th, 2011, the Inspector General for the Department of Defense released the full report on the review of the matters related to the sexual assault, and it was determined that NCIS failed to conduct the criminal investigation into the rape complaint in accordance with proper standards. When you read the IG report on the rape investigation, the case agent that was assigned did a terrible job. It looks like the case agent intentionally didn't follow up on things because she didn't believe it. Cesar's wife, Christina, was never charged in connection to the crime. She filed for divorce from Cesar and took full custody of their daughter. The last twist in this case was that a DNA test would later prove that Maria's unborn baby was not fathered by Cesar Laurean. Gasp! That is the story of the murder of Maria Lauterbach. Cesar Laurean remains in prison in North Carolina and will stay there forever. That was long and gruesome. Sorry, but it's true crime. It's Crue Trime, okay? Thank you so much for hanging out today and for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this one, then let me know down below. If you hated it, let me know down below. Let me know what else you would like to see me do, and we'll do it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so that you don't miss any videos I upload here on YouTube every Thursday. You can also follow me on Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter, and that is it. I will catch you in the next video. Bye! Oh, you scared the shit out of me. God damn it, Tyler. I'm in here selling a murder mystery makeup, and a gremlin came in here. This is what I live with. Yeah, the coat fits. It's a vintage Gizmo raincoat. That really scared me, by the way. Yeah. Shitty. Didn't need to say that at all. Shit. I already have my eyebrows on because I know that I wasn't going to be able to like talk and focus on that at all, so just spared you.